Veronica, I assume you guys are just getting set. We can't hear anything right now. I just want to confirm.
No, we haven't started yet. We do not have a quorum. We're waiting.
Okay,
Okay, thanks.
perfect. Thanks.
Hey, Vicky, can you hear us?
Yeah. Yep, there you are. Hear me?
She is muted.
Well, she is now.
You guys know what you want to do.
We have no idea what we want to do.
Vicky, this is Kelly. I can kind of hear you. It's kind of quiet.
Okay, well, we'll try to speak up.
I'll
No.
talk loud. Is that better?
The
That's better.
person online can hear her, but we can't.
Oh,
The volume's, I think it's on her side.
it's on her side at least, but you could kind of hear her. See if they talk. See if you can get them to talk now.
Vicky, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
We can hear her.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll call this meeting to order at 3:32. Jeff, can you do the roll call, please?
Yes, Jeff Balzo, I'm present. Eric Diamond, absent. Mike Dixon. Present. Rachel Drake, absent. Tony McMillan. Present. Vicky Cooper.
Present.
Don Echeverry.
Present.
Robert Munson.
Present.
Joseph Silvera is absent. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. We have a quorum. Is there, 2.0, is there any public comment?
It was emailed to the committee.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to 2.01, presentation and discussion of the Washoe County School District Insurance Claims Experience Report as of May 2023.
Huh? I think, is that the wrong one? Oh. The wrong one uploaded. I could get to it though. Yeah.
All right, I think we're set. Good afternoon, everyone. Lloyd Barnes with LP Insurance Services. The claims report for May, probably move through this pretty rapidly. I think everyone has had a chance to take a look at it. Exhibit 1 there, our enrollment counts have been pretty consistent this year, pretty flat. Our claims, as we've discussed previously, and the trend continues, are up a bit, about 5% on a monthly average basis. That's $6 million versus 5.7. Also on a composite basis at 871 versus 833 last year. Overall fixed costs are pretty flat, and so our total costs are similar, right around 5% higher, 4.8% higher at 6.4. And our composite cost per employee, 926 versus 889. Large claims, again, still early in the year from that standpoint, so still tracking those as they come up. Exhibit 2, again, just the visual representation. Oh, yep, right there of sort of where things are at. We did have, and again, these are rolling 12 months, so it moves up in rolling 12-month increments. So it is continuing its upward march. Again, I think at least I was hoping it would stabilize a bit more than it has. But again, our cost structure continues to be turning up on an average basis. So, Exhibit 3 is probably the next piece I'll just sort of touch on real quickly for May. You can see there down on line 35, our composite cost per employee 1108, 1108.97 to be exact, which brings our overall average cost per employee to the 926. So you can see there May was a fairly heavy month for spend. So I'll let everyone else continue and go through the report in more detail on their own if they'd like to. Just wanted to sort of give everyone a level setting of information as we continue on with our conversation on rates. So.
Any questions?
This is Kelly for the record. Veronica, can you share on the Teams meeting for us so that we can see it as well? I apologize. Thank you.
Can you see it, Kelly? Kelly, can you see the screens now?
Yep, we can. Thank you so much.
Okay. Any questions before we move to the next item? Okay. 2.02, presentation, discussion, and possible action to provide recommendations to the Board of Trustees for final approval of possible changes to the Washoe County School District's health plan to include an 8% increase in the premium rate and benefit plan changes, to include increased deductibles, increased copays, dental and orthodontia benefit changes for the 2024 school year or plan year.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and jump in here to from that standpoint. Again, Lloyd Barnes with LP Insurance Services. At our previous meeting, again, we reviewed the projection of rates, which is being established at 8%, and the corresponding rate chart here, rate matrix here that everyone I think saw last time. One of the asks out of the last meeting was, could we look at some benefit modifications and the corresponding impact to the plan or plans that would occur with those changes. So we actually went back and dusted off what we had done the last time we've gone through this exercise, which was surprisingly a number of years ago. It was the last time we had to talk about benefit changes. So long ago that we had to really dust it off. And I think there was a little bit of there was some question or confusion around the original exhibit that was provided to the committee. And I think we can jump to this one, Veronica. Yep, there we go. The first exhibit did not have the far right column on it. And that was really a carryover from how we used to present the information. It was very plan specific with the PPO and the EPO at the time. Just sort of carried that forward because it was very plan specific. There was a request to look at it from an overall cost perspective. So in lieu of eliminating the two columns or the plan specific savings percentage, we went ahead and just added the far right column, which is an overall impact to the plan combined, HSA and well, all the total plan combined. So that's the difference in column, in the first percentage column and then the far right percentage column. The financial dollars, again, would still be the financial dollars. It's just what do you divide it by from that standpoint. So, and again, as in the past, certainly not an exhaustive list of potential changes. It is a list of things that felt maybe would be tolerable and or something that the committee would want to consider. Obviously, we can provide an exhaustive list, but would like some direction if there were some things specifically that anyone on the committee would want to see. So again, the way you read this chart is each section is a benefit category, such as Section 1, out-of-pocket maximums, and there are a couple of different options within that particular category that the committee could consider. Option 1 would change the out-of-pocket maximum for an individual from $4,000 to $4,500 and flow through to the different categories accordingly. The impact to the PPO plan would be 0.88%, roughly $620,000, or overall 0.77%. So just shy of 1% for the plan. So moderate benefit reduction, and correspondingly a not significant change to the plan.
Go ahead, Tony. Sorry.
Tony McMillan. On the prescription plan, you have the retail is listed as 1 and mail is 2. Are those combined or could they be individual?
You could change those benefits individually. They usually sort of go together, which is why we have them here. But you could technically change them independent of one another.
Okay. So we could feasibly say we would like the reductions to 3, 4, 5, both prescription and option 4 dental, and have a rate increase of 6.5%.
Okay. So,
I mean,
I'll
just
have
throwing out as an option.
oh, okay. Yeah, you can mix and match. Yes, sorry, I think that was your question. Can you mix
Okay.
and match? And yes, you can.
Okay. That'd be my recommendation, Chair, just so you know.
My only comment on that is that when we change the plan benefit significantly, the plan itself becomes less rich in a sense, but it also, we tend to nickel and dime people every time. So if we raise the deductible to go to the doctor, every single time somebody goes, and that disproportionately affects some members as well. I mean, people making, $10, $11 an hour versus somebody who's making $30 or $40 an hour. So that's my only concern, is because this plan applies across the board from WESP to retirees to everybody in between. It sometimes is disproportionate. I also think that to keep in mind as a committee, that when we raise rates, the district picks that up for the individual, but it impacts our retirees and it impacts people with spouses and with children. So, we have to is there a balance? And for me, as I look at this, when I thought that the first numbers, I was like, oh, pretty hopeful. We could combine a couple of those with a rate increase and we'd be set. I look at 0.18, and to me, the cost increase isn't really worth the 1.18 that it's going to save in a plan, in increasing rates. So, other thoughts?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So we have the orthodontia benefit page here with options 1 through 5 listed. Let's take option 4, for example. It says it's a $150,000 decrease to claims and a 2.83% decrease. That's just a 2.83% decrease to the dental plan, but in reality, it would be more like the option 3 on this page of 0.19 or 0.18%, correct?
I think that's an accurate way to look at it. Again, those were done somewhat in isolation of one another with Anthem's support and data, but again, with some rounding errors, yes, I think that's a good way to look at it, Jeff.
Thank you, Lloyd.
Let's ask a clarifying question real quick, just to help me before we get to the point of making a decision. So if I'm reading this correctly, if we go down the column of estimated planned savings, you just referenced the 0.18. If we make no change, we're just committing to the 8%, but if we, the 8% rate increase, but if we consider one of these lines with the estimated savings, we're deducting that from the 8%?
We're
roughly?
deducting it from the 8% or whatever percent we choose as a committee. So we could go 10% increase in rate plan, we could go 6%.
But we know, well, but we know the estimated cost is projected to be about 8%,
Yeah.
right? So to your point, to your example, that little adjustment you just said for a $5 copay increase only saves us $140,000. Is my thinking correct? Am I understanding that?
On the
Well, I was just
prescription
using,
plan
yeah, I was
you're
just using the
talking
exact example you gave
Yeah.
of the 0.18%. Like your point was, why would we raise, what I heard, why would we raise a $5 copay to only save the whole system $140,000, right?
Well, we would be saving 0.18, which would mean we would still have to do 7.82.
Right.
You know, so is it really, when we're talking about an overall plan, you know, keeping the plan richer so people get more for their money if they are buying into the plan for their spouses and for their kids and retirees, than watering down the plan?
Right.
Sure. I think there's a balance there. And also, I always keep in mind, at least for the member, the district, yes, I know that they have a finite amount of money. Mark would remind me of that. But the district has to budget to cover, according to our negotiated agreements, that amount. So, and I asked earlier, but the amount we have in reserves is about 25 million. We're bleeding about, according to Mark last time, $1 million a month right now. So if we did nothing, we would deplete that in 2 years. We obviously aren't going to do that. I mean, that wouldn't be prudent. And I wouldn't say it's prudent to even do that for 1 year, but I'm not sure that I personally am ready to go 8%. So I don't know. Go ahead, Tony.
The other, just to clarify, I know we talk 8% because that's the basically rounded up whole number, but the values are more anywhere from 7.68% to 7.87. Looks like the highest. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's when you blend in some of the other expense items that get put into the overall rate. But for the medical, for the main benefit plan, it's 8%, but then it gets diluted a little bit with life insurance and gap plan and things like that.
Okay. And also, our bleeding $1 million a month doesn't count for the OPEB increase, which should take care of the next 3 months worth of that.
Did we ever get an amount that was
They
going to
weren't
be?
final on the amount, but it
I know.
was estimated at about $3 million, I think.
Yeah. But it wouldn't be prudent to do nothing either. So,
Yeah.
Don, go ahead.
Is there any chance we have that breakdown? Like, what if we went 5%? What would that estimate that we were going to go into the account each month? I mean, we can kind of roughly do that, but do we happen to have that? Like, if we did a 5 increase or we did a 6 increase, what would it look like over the next year?
I think Mark said we're bleeding about $1 million a month, and so if we did half, you would figure we'd probably bleed about 500,000 a month. If there is no other increases, that we would be at about 500,000. So if we have 25 million, roughly 6 million of that, give or take, would be, unless we don't meet that or that threshold, we could go above that. I mean, 8% is, again, a crapshoot in some ways, and we could end up doing 10% next year, even though we raised it 8%, so, with inflation. Go ahead, Don.
Sorry, Lloyd, I have a question. I don't know if you have the answer. Compared to the year before, on our high or our high, how are we standing? I mean, I know where we stand as of this moment, but comparatively, did we have more people in this last year at this time? Are we sitting about on track to be at 26 again? How is this looking for us? Because we know that this is the thing that can sometimes make or break us.
Not sure I understand your question fully. I think what you're asking is, what has been the change in enrollment on the high deductible plan?
Sorry, no. On our high claims.
Oh.
And how are we tracking compared to last year on high claims? And do we have, we have like 6 people, right?
Yeah, I got it. Sorry, I was not
It was
talking with
me.
you at all.
It was me.
Exhibit 12 will show you sort of where we're tracking right now. So we've got 5 individuals that are being tracked as of right now. No one has exceeded your stop loss level. It's low. I don't know I don't know where it compares to exactly this time last year, which I think is your question. But I think at this point, it seems like you're doing just fine on your large claims. So I'm not seeing anything in there that's real concerning, I guess. Maybe is a
Okay.
better way to answer
Because
that.
we've had years where that has been what has broken us.
And some
Yeah,
And we've had years where that's been really good.
Yeah, and I would say it looks decent right now, but there's a lot of time left
lot
in
of
the
time
policy year, and we know that it catches up to us, but right now it looks fine.
And several of those haven't grown over several months, so they may, we don't know, but they may be, of course, there may be bills still coming too.
Can I run through some math real quick? Cross-check me here. So I'm just checking out your, whatever this page is called, paid claims and then projection for next year. So I was just curious, I just went to total premiums for employee plus family. So if I did my math right, on each of the EE plus family total premium numbers, I subtracted out the EE only to get the difference of what the family cost really was. So if I did my math right, I came out with 723 is the current number. 780 would be the projected number, so that's a difference of $57 a month. So here's what I think is interesting about that, just in listening to what a few even said about keeping the plan rich. When I think of $57 a month to offset the ridiculous cost of inflation we have right now, I don't think that's too much money. Like, that's just me personally, but I understand like the retiree's point of view. But a misconception I've now heard twice this week, and I just had a phone call walking in here, was staff hearing that we may get, here was the example I just got on the phone. Well, we're going to get a 12% pay raise, but you're going to deduct 8% for health care. And I said, well, that's not quite how that works.
No.
We're talking 8% on $700, not your paycheck, right? So I even wonder is if we hear about fear with the increase, if part of it is just a misunderstanding in the math, because I do think when you lay it out and we're talking $57 a month, like I understand that could add to somebody's hardship, but that's also, I mean, I'm just stewing on what you said a minute ago. For $57 a month to maintain, and that's a worst case scenario, right? That's EE plus family. So if the worst case scenario is a $57 a month increase to maintain the coverage we have, so to me, to save $50 to have an additional $500 deductible, I don't know. I don't think that's really worth the trade.
Well, even on the employee, it's $61 difference. So retirees would get a $61 increase.
So they'd have the full
Yeah.
118. I think when I did the math the first time, I didn't deduct that out. So if you were paying for a full EE plus family as a retiree, you could potentially have a $118 a month increase, right? And we said there's about 1,000 of those folks, right? Isn't that what you shared a couple weeks ago, roughly? Is that in addition to the 8,000, or how many people are on the total plan again?
Let's see, total plan, actives and retirees, both plans, as of current month, you're running about 7,000, just under 7,000. For the retirees, it's about 739.
So 10%, a little more. 12. Thanks, that's helpful.
Go ahead.
So, Mike, thank you for your point on and doing the math for the $57 a month increase for the family and explaining that, it's not an 8% deduction from a paycheck, it's 8% on this monthly cost. I'm leaning kind of where you're at too, of the $57 a month at the most here is more beneficial, I think, than seeing these significant costs to out-of-pocket maximums or deductibles. And then I guess lastly, I just wasn't sure if we can't see Vicky on the screen if she had anything she wanted to add.
Hear me?
Yeah.
Well, I was talking,
Oh, you're going in and out.
can you hear me? Yes. I was talking to a retiree about our insurance. She said there's nothing like it. There's nothing that good out there. And I didn't say anything about it. She said she looked out there, and so I think it will be hard that everything's full. I would just, that maybe we can not do the 10 and maybe do 6.
Could you repeat the last part just really quick? We missed that.
I was leaning towards maybe not doing a whole percent, but maybe 6%. So maybe there's a chance that things down. I think after COVID, a lot of people, and maybe things will look better. But I'm new to this, so I don't know when do we renegotiate contract with the insurance with now? Does that happen?
You mean with Anthem, our insurance?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something that raise rates down the road.
Yeah. Well, so I think we have probably one more year, Laura said, with Anthem before we renegotiate rates. So we wouldn't have to look at that probably this year. It wouldn't be till next plan year to worry about that.
I know there was a comment that we haven't seen inflation yet as far as Anthem goes. Is that correct?
Lloyd?
Lloyd Barnes with LP Insurance. I think there may be a little bit of mixing of concepts here. So the projection of the 8% is your plan's projected cost increase for 2024. Again, as a self-funded plan. It is not something you would negotiate with Anthem on one way or another. You get to negotiate with yourselves, which is what you're doing, but Anthem doesn't get a say in that. That is your plan cost. You do pay Anthem some administrative fees that can be negotiated, but as we've talked in the past, it's a very small part of your cost structure, and that does happen occasionally, and actually but that's, again, that's a minimal part of the equation. It is not like buying insurance from an insurance company where it is negotiated every so often. So hopefully that cleared that little piece up. So this is your negotiations with yourself as the insurance company as to how much to charge yourself.
And how much risk we're willing to take.
That makes sense. Thanks.
I got a couple of things I just want to add to this. So, I mean, to be transparent, my wife's a general practitioner for Renown. Healthcare costs are not going down. I won't get too fired up on that topic. So I think, Vicky raised a good point about could it cool off eventually. I think on the flip side, we need to prepare for each year. It's going to continue to go up. I mean, how many of us did our power bill literally double this year, right? So just in some other quick math, I'm curious if anybody else wants to stew on this for a moment with me. Say we did something to offset a little bit of this percentage cost. Like, let's say one of these options where it's a 1% saving, but you're upping the deductible by $250 to $750. If we're saving somebody 20, 30 bucks a month, but upping your deductible by 500, I mean, you're just rolling the dice on if you're going to pay it up front or in the end, right? So I think I'm just back around into the $57 max increase just makes sense the more we ponder it. Unless I'm missing something. That's why I'm processing with you guys, because
And I know last year we discussed, raising 1 or 2%, and several of us on the committee really felt that, because we saw the writing on the wall, that we should have probably raised rates 1 or 2% then, so we wouldn't be hit with 8% this year. On the flip side, I'm kind of like, well, if we think about splitting this between 2 years, do 6% this year and then probably 4% next year or 5%, depending on inflation, versus 8% up front. So, again, that's taking a huge risk because, but we do have the money coming, some money coming from OPEB. We don't know how much, but we also have rebates for prescriptions that may not be figured in yet. I don't know. And then we also have the savings that we could pull from to some extent. We can't pull $1 million a month. That's not sustainable. And I don't even think $500,000 a month is sustainable. But, if we split this, the raise increase over 2 years, rather than hitting especially retirees, but also families who, $50 a month, you go, okay, it's not that big of a deal. But when your power just doubled and you got to have power in your house and your rent's going up, I know mine's going up $100 a month in July, it becomes very difficult for people. And the people who will stay on the plan with their families or keep their kids on the plan are the ones who most need it and will cost us. That sounds bad, but we will lose some people probably who say, you know what, I think we can maybe not insure my spouse this year.
yeah. Well, to be fair, I'm going to be the EE plus family here in a minute, so I'm going to absorb that cost. I'm just curious, could you speak a little bit to, you got me wondering now, how consistent have the projection rate increases been in the past? Like I know this is you just kind of guessing a little bit, but if we're guessing, or mathematically predicting an 8% this coming year, fiscal year, is it possible it could come in a lot less? Because I'm feeling the amount of increases we've seen in claims the last few months, is it a possibility that the 8% could even come in a little too short?
Again, Lloyd Barnes with LP Insurance. I'm gonna backtrack 1 second before I answer your question, but I wanted to provide a little bit of clarification on the rebates specifically. We gave you credit for anything we could possibly give you credit for for that particular line item. So we actually pulled a little bit forward to give you as much credit for that as possible in the mathematical calculation. Going to your question, Mike, rate setting is very much an art versus a science. It is a best guess estimate based on math. So yes, absolutely, there could be variance up or down based on that. The larger the plan, and your plan is certainly a larger plan, the better we can usually do at predicting, within a margin of error. And Robert at our last meeting asked about confidence intervals. You guys maybe heard us talking a little bit about that. That was a flashback from many years ago. And confidence intervals are something that basically allows an underwriter or an actuary to have more confidence that they're not going to be wrong. They're not going to be wrong on the bad side. So from an underwriting standpoint, it's okay to be wrong on the upside to some degree, but you never want to be wrong on the downside, because then now you have an underfunded plan. So that's where confidence intervals used to come in. They're essentially margin. It's a little margin, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% that gets added. So could we be understated? Yeah, we could be understated a bit. You've got a very strong ending fund balance. And if we go back and look at last year, I think we projected roughly a 3%. We probably were off on that to the low side from what actually is happening this year. Could we be overstated at the 8%? Sure. You know, things could stabilize and settle down, and you know, we could be through a lot of the higher utilization, you know, that's come post-COVID, and we could settle back down. So certainly could happen on both sides, which is where the art of this process comes in. That we try to find a number that mathematically makes sense. Nobody wants to take more than they should as far as the planned funding, but you also don't want to get too far out of whack to the other side. And so that's the art that you are all struggling with and doing a good job with it. So I mean, I think that's my answer.
Thank you. That's very
Tony?
helpful.
Because I'm on a time limit.
I know, he has to leave at 4:15.
First of all, Don, so you know, the report from May of '22, we had 3 subscribers that we were tracking. They weren't over our stop loss.
Okay,
So you know on that.
thank you.
What we haven't discussed, I guess, too much here is the orthodontia. And to try to help, I hear the group kind of discussing, having a hard time with 8%, you know, maybe doing something a little bit less, and that could lead to a little bit more next year. But sometimes that's better in the long run, because remember, there's a significant PERS increase this year that is the employee's responsibility. And there's a group of employees without contracts and in negotiations with the district, and that's one more thing that's going to come out of everybody's take-home pay. And that's a big deal when you have families and that type of stuff. So kind of going back to the orthodontia, I am really in support of option 4, which will help with a reduction in the, if we reduce the 8% to maybe 6, which I could support, and option 4 that is a decrease to two exams, kind of helps that 6 be more like 6.2 maybe, but in the long run, and then like to look at the orthodontia benefit being added in next year.
The option 4, I think Lloyd said that the 2.83 was only to the dental, so it would be more
It's
like.
the equivalent of 0.2. That's why I say on 6,
0.2.
that's 6.2.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But I don't want to forget the orthodontia. If we don't do it this year, try to minimize some of the loss there. We would like to keep that on the docket for next year if we do that.
All right, my final thoughts, because we're on time crunch. I think that if, you know, everything's going to come together, potentially bargaining groups are going to have some of the most substantial raises we've ever seen. Like, if that's truly going to come around, right? Then I think we should consider a decent increase here, because if you're going to get a big increase here and a big increase here, then you're just getting the offset at once. I think that if we say, hey, you know, I'm just thinking certified staff off the top of my head, I can't speak to your groups, but I think if we talk about teachers, if they get a substantial raise and we do a small chunk this year, and then we kick in another chunk next year on the insurance rates, I could see how that would be frustrating, you know, like, now I'm just back to losing more money, versus if it's just all initial up front. I wonder if that would land a little softer for some people. Am I articulating that right? You know, I just think that for me and how I manage my money, it's like, God, if I'm going to lose a chunk of money, I'd just rather even it out now and just adjust to that life, you know, that budget now. So I think even after listening to everything, and the other thing I am thinking, I don't mean this harshly at all, I think that we're all have a lot of intent to support our retirees as much as possible, but I also don't think we can make a decision that impacts, you know, 10% of the people. That's also going to possibly negatively impact 90% of the larger group. I think we've got to find a balance there a little bit. I'm trying to speed this up for you.
I think that the 0.2, I think, is not really, I don't know, maybe it is something, I mean, absolutely. But I do have a lot of people over the years asking about why don't we have orthodontia. This was an issue when Dave Fullenwetter was on here, 10 years ago? And, we've kicked the ball on orthodontia down the road every single time because of rate increases. And this, if we can do this without any rate increase affecting anything, making it a wash, I would prefer to at least do that. But that's just where I'm at. I don't know about others. In full disclosure, I don't have kids, so none of them are going to need orthodontia. So.
If I may, I'd like to make a motion.
Go for it.
Hopefully I get this right. I move that the insurance committee provide recommendations to the Board of Trustees for final approval of possible changes to the Washoe County School District's health plan to include an 8% increase to the premium rate and option number 1 on the orthodontia benefit sheet for the 2024 plan year.
Discussion on that, or do we have to second it?
There has to be a second and then public comment, and then we can discuss. Or actually, do we have public comment before we discuss or after we discuss? It's before we vote, I know that. After we discuss, okay.
You said option 1?
Correct, on the orthodontia.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we look at an 8% increase to the plan, plus option 1 on the dental and orthodontia expenditures. Any discussion? Don?
So I appreciate keeping the dental. I was also adding in PERS decreases to the salary schedule. And I don't know that I'm fully in about the 8%. I'm not anything lower than 6% because I think we can do a little hits to us for one more year with, especially now that we know we're also going to have another decrease to the paychecks. And those are going to start to hit our families pretty hard. So I'm not sure I can go for this one. Sorry.
Let's just do the math.
I'm on Dawn's side with this. Like, it's appreciative that we should get increases, but not one group has successfully negotiated, and the legislature is still battling out money, and history is not on the employees' side of any of it. So I think with all the decreases, with also some respect to our retirees and families that are not employees, I am more on the 6% side. I can go with option 1 versus 4 on the dental, but I am a little more on the 6% side as far as rate increase for those reasons.
Any other comments? Okay.
I did it wrong.
No, okay.
I'm just an elementary principal. Stressing me out. The financial guy that we got me. Well, I want to know. Here's my question. Let's just answer it right now. What is the monthly savings of a 6% increase versus an 8? So going back to the earlier math, we said it was about $57 per month for the EE plus family. That's the family when the employer paid, employee paid by the employer, right? 57 per month is the family cost at the 8%. So if we adjusted it to 6%, what's 2%? I mean, what's
2% of $115 about $25, $20.
I don't think it's that. I think we're talking like $8, $9 a month.
Don?
Fact check me up, Don.
My part is that the 1.8 PERS deduction is to the full paycheck. So I was trying to That's why I went down to 6, because that isn't just to the premium, right? We're talking premium, but I'm also thinking about what they're about to get hit on the other side too.
So, I mean, just talk about that a little bit further, because I just got my updated salary for the next year. The 1.8% is coming out of my step. It's not a step anymore, but my longevity, right? So I'm not physically seeing a 1.8% deduction. I'm just not seeing a cost of living, whatever that would have been to offset, right? So I'm not physically going to net 1.8 less money than I do now. I'm only going to net maybe 0.5, 0.05 instead of. But that's the admin schedule.
Yeah.
So to talk about the teacher schedule is because that's the majority of our members here. I think we're talking about directly is on their scale. Even if there's no raises, let's talk about just the current scale. If you moved over or down your year,
Not everybody.
because you could be frozen on a spot, huh? So it is possible to be in a teacher situation right now to where the 1.8 PERS contribution
Is a
is going to
deduction.
impact your net pay, right?
And
Between
it's-
July and August.
And what I think we also don't think about, not that we're going into negotiations, is that teachers have had, and I think Wes also negotiated bonuses this last year.
Right.
So if we're starting a new year with no bonuses, potentially, and if you have no bonuses, there's so you're talking probably another 3 or 4% on top of the 2%. Now we're taking a 6% pay cut, and if you didn't get a step increase, some teachers are taking a 6% pay cut until negotiations are done, which could be, December, could be the end of next school year before they see anything from that, depending on how
And
long
well-
negotiations go. Good.
Well, different associations, everybody caps out. So there's always a group that's frozen and
Yeah, that's true.
is really only getting reductions, no increases. So,
I mean, I guess to your point, I don't think 8 to 6 does anything. Like, I feel if you want to save people money, you need to do like 3 or 4. Like, maybe we need to do a little more math, but
And to that point, I also know that I don't want to ever put us back to where we were many years ago on this team, looking with no savings. So, I mean, I don't want it, but I liked when we talked about we could do partial this year and know that we'd have to increase next year, which I know isn't the thing. We know there won't be a PERS in another year because that's about an every 2-year in claim. It just hits at the same time this time.
Jeff?
For the record, Jeff Bozzo, I just would like to point out that we haven't raised rates. It'll be, or for 3 years we didn't raise rates, so 8% over the course of 4 years averages out to 2% a year, which I don't think is bad. Yeah, it's hitting us all at once, but we were fortunate enough to be in a position where we didn't have to raise rates for several years after. Well, I think we had a few 10% rate increases of 5% and 2%. We had the opportunity to do it last year, but the recommendation was to not raise rates and just see where things landed. It went okay. It could have been a lot worse. Could have been better too. And I am fearful that when hospital contracts are renegotiated in a few years, and we actually start to feel actual inflationary pressures outside of just the increased usage of the plan, that we're going to be looking at, wishing that we were only going to have to raise rates 8%. Now, can't predict the future, but that's my position and where I'm coming from on here. I just don't see it getting any better, and we've been fortunate enough to not have to raise rates for a while, so I think now's the time.
Any others before I take public comment before we vote? No? Is there any public comment on this? Okay, seeing no public comment, I'll put the motion to the body. All in favor of an 8% increase with option 1, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All opposed, nay?
Nay.
Nay. Okay, so we are back to where we were.
Did we get Vicky's?
Oh, Vicky, sorry, did we get a vote from you?
Yeah, I said nay for now.
Okay, thank you. So we're back to where we were. I know you got to leave, so. Go on Teams before you leave. Yeah. I don't think we don't have the attorney, but I know I would get flack on that.
I can make a motion if you like.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll make a motion to have a rate increase of 6% and option 1 of the orthodontia.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to go with a 6% rate increase and option 1 of orthodontia. Is there any discussion?
How much money is that saving us? I think that's just the question. Or rather, potentially, how much money are we then dipping into the 25 million to offset the cost, right?
Floyd?
I'm sure somewhere there's a chart where I could just find 2% real quick, but I'm sorry, I can't.
Lloyd Barnes with LP Insurance Services. I had a feeling you might ask that, so I went back and did some math. 1.5 million is 2%.
The entire year?
So $1.5 million annual difference between an 8% and a 6% increase.
So we wouldn't be bleeding $1 million a month.
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
And I think that lets us say to people, we're really trying. They've been being hit with all these things, so we're really trying. We're seeing, make it better. We utilize the insurance less, probably not, but at least we're being conservative. Then next year we may have to do 6% again. There's that, but at least trying.
Thank you, Vicki. Anybody else have comments?
I mean, I don't feel like this is a hill to die on for me, but I am super concerned with Jeff that, last year we had this discussion and I was concerned that maybe we should have raised it a little bit. I don't think we were also anticipating there to be such a spike in claims at the same time, so kind of a double whammy there. But to the extent of how much cash we're burning, the average person member on our plan is not aware of that number. So I think whether we raise it 6% or 8%, I am worried that next year there's going to be another significant hike. So as I'm processing that out, I think that we should limit the amount of continual padding we're doing through the reserve. At some point, we got to rip the Band-Aid a little bit, right? But I am concerned that even doing 6% to come out and say there's another 6% matching next year, like that's going to be uncomfortable for people. So. Like I said, this is not a mountain I'm going to die on, but I think we just need to have the conversation and concern. But I do agree with you. PERS deduction does seem to happen kind of every other year, right? So,
and our contracts will all be in place as well. For next year, when we're sitting here next year, we'll have contracts, hopefully. Possible we won't, but it's likely we will. So we will, at least people will know where they're at. So. Any other comments? Okay, I'll open it up for public comment. Is there any public comment? No? Okay, seeing none. All in favor of a 6% plan increase option 1 for adding orthodontia and taking us down to 2 cleanings a year, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And Vicki, I saw your hand go up, but did you say aye?
She did.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay. Okay. Yes, aye. And all opposed say nay?
Nay.
Okay. So what's it, 4 to? Okay, 4-2, motion passes. Go to the next. Is there anything else for this item? Do you want to make motions for this item before we move? Okay. 2.0. 2.04, presentation discussion of the Washoe County School District Group Insurance Wellness Program report to cover current events. Oh, Lord, I was thinking we were going to do that in that one. Oh, sorry. We'll be right with you. Sorry. 2.03, presentation and discussion of possible action to recommend that the Board of Trustees approves the following increases to the qualified high deductible health plan, the individual deductible to $3,200 and family to $6,400 for the plan year 2024. Do you want to present something?
Yeah, I can start it out, and maybe Lloyd, you might want to help with the discussion because I think you have a good way of explaining things. So we do have a mandatory increase of the individual deductible for the qualified high deductible health plan this year to $3,200. This is in order to keep our embedded status. So that's not an option for us. However, there is an option to also increase the family deductible to $6,400 because we're currently at, I don't have it in front of me, 5, right? Yep. This would bring it back in line to a more standardized family deductible of twice the individual deductible cost. So that's the proposal on the table. I do believe Lloyd also put in the savings if we did go to a higher family deductible as well of the 0.21%. And then Lloyd, I don't know if you want to add anything or, okay.
Is there any discussion?
For the record, Jeff Bozzo, I guess where I stand on this one is if we're required to increase the individual deductible to $3,200, then I guess we need to, but we didn't make any other plan design changes, so I wouldn't feel comfortable just hitting this specific plan with a plan design change. So that's where I stand.
Any other comments or discussion? Hearing none, is there any public comment? Okay. We do need a motion though, right? I mean, we have to, it's going to happen, but at least option 1, but I think we have to make a motion to do option 1.
Okay, then I'm ready to make a motion.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I move that the Health Insurance Committee, or the Group Insurance Committee, recommend to the Board of Trustees, sorry, I'm going to start that over. I read that wrong. I move that the Group Insurance Committee recommend the Board of Trustees approves the increase to the qualified high deductible health plan for the individual deductible increase to $3,200, but leave the family deductible of $5,000 for the 2024 plan year. Hope that was okay.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second to look at option 1, raising the high deductible from $3,000 to $3,200 for the individual and leaving the family at $5,000. Is there any discussion? Is there any public comment? Okay. All in favor of option 1, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay. All opposed, nay? Okay. Motion is passed. Okay. Now we'll go to 2.04, presentation discussion of the Washoe County Group Insurance Wellness Program report to cover current events and programs as of June 2023. Welcome.
Hi everyone, Mackenzie Howard for the record. So last meeting we discussed our CompPsych quarterly utilization report, and so after that meeting I reached out to our account manager to see if he could give us more details on the family and child issues. He did not have any specifics of why that might have jumped into our top 5 for this quarter, but he did give more details on what members have to say to qualify within that category. So anything within that category involves any form of stress within family relationships. So that's parent to child or child to child, or between spouses. It also could do with how to support them better through that type of tension. And then over the summer, for our next 2 updates, we have 2 Virgin Pulse challenges. One is a step challenge and one is a healthy habit challenge. Both of them start on July 10th. Any questions? No?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to 2.05, approval of the minutes from the May 31st, 2023 Group Insurance Committee meeting. Those were emailed out. I don't know if everybody had a chance to read through them. I assume you did.
For the record, Jeff Bozzo, on the top of page 5, it looks like it says unanimously Rachel Drake, but I don't know if that's supposed to be a nay vote because it was a 7-1 vote, so that might need to get corrected there.
I think she abstained. I don't think she voted. So we can make that correction.
Okay, yeah, because I mean it says 7-1, and she's the only one not voting in favor. Anyway. Then I'll move to approve the minutes as amended.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the May 31st, 2023 minutes as corrected. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Okay, motion is carried. Closing items, I don't believe we're going to have the July meeting. Is that correct? Unless something comes up, we likely won't have a July meeting. So our next meeting will be in August. I don't have the date in front of me. August 23rd, here again in the boardroom at 4 p.m. Okay, without any further discussion, we are adjourned. Vicki, thank you so much for being here. I think she just dropped off, but